Hi everyone, welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the film from 2010, Rubber. Without any further, let's get started. At the start of the film, there were chairs strewn over the road between two remote locations. The next shot showed a man patiently waiting for someone near the seats, while holding an excessive number of binoculars. Soon after, he noticed a car approaching him, crashing with every chair on the way to the man. A sheriff then walks out of the car's truck and approaches the camera. Sheriff Chad grins at the film, pointing out that a lot of things in movies happen for no reason and that life is full of no reason. He also criticizes the movie, claiming it is an ode to no reason, and occasionally he joins in on the action and occasionally he comments on it. As the camera pans back, a group of people can be seen listening to Sheriff Chad with patience, and after his speech, Sheriff Chad returns to the car and departs. They gathered to watch a movie in the desert of California. The man, who subsequently turned out to be an accountant, handed out binoculars to each member in attendance, instructing them to turn around and watch the movie through their binoculars. After giving them to everyone, he mounts his bike and rides out without giving them a sidelong glance. They keep looking through the binoculars as they wait for the movie to begin. During the movie, the group keeps showing up to see how other people are responding to what has happened thus far. In the middle of the desert, where there is dirt and undesired objects all over the place, a tire named Rubber first begins to move and eventually comes to life. Rubber initially had no idea what he was supposed to do and simply moved from one location to another, honing his balance. After he figured it out, he began to move farther. Rubber stopped while moving in front of a plastic bottle with the intention of rolling over it to crush it, which pleased him. Every time he saw something or an animal, he would move himself to smash it. After rolling over the scorpion, he advances on a bottle of beer, rolling over it in vain because it was not even near to breaking. Staring at it angrily, the bottle broke, and he discovered that he had psychokinesis. Satisfied, he then walked away to locate his next victim.
Amazing.
When the audience saw the situation through their binoculars, they were initially perplexed but quickly became pleased with what they were witnessing. Rubber was out to further experiment with his newly discovered skills. Rubber stopped when he saw a tin and, without rolling over it, used his newly discovered powers to smash it into bits. Deciding to call it a day, he stops next to a dry tree. When daylight arrived, Rubber went out to get his next victim. Meanwhile, in another area, the accountant returned to the group spot and began waking them up before leaving once more. The crowd begs him to bring food for them, but he ignores them. The tire was rolling when he was facing a rabbit, intending to use his ability to kill it. Rubber began to look at it, tearing it to pieces and instantly putting it to eternal sleep. When he gets to the road, Robert notices a woman in her car who has decided to do the same thing he did to the animals and inanimate objects. When the car won't start, he tries using his ability, but it doesn't work. Rubber could only stall her until he was far away, and as the woman tried to start her car, he began to roll his way over to her without looking around. Before he could do anything, he was hit by a truck, which infuriated him, and his victim was able to get into a car and drive off. He gets rid of the crow that was directly in front of him where he had fallen, and he next gets rid of the truck's driver. When it pulls to a stop at a neighboring petrol station, Rubber notices the truck's driver alone by the phone booth. As he followed the man into the car, used his strength, and killed the driver by tearing his skull to bits. The audience watched all the killings through their binoculars. Satisfied, he sets out to find his next victim, and he passes a police cruiser that is siren blaring. After a while, he saw the same woman he had planned to kill at a nearby motel. She was spotted going inside and closing the door. While waiting for his victim, he watches TV in the room next to her that was left open since he doesn't want to miss this target as he did the last time. Some of the audience decided to call it a day and take a nap. At night, while staying in a nearby room with a turkey, the accountant received a call and reassured the caller that the task will be completed the following morning.
You can count on me.
The following day, the accountant leaves his hotel from the same location as Robert and the woman. He calls out to the audience and throws a turkey at them. They begin fighting over the one piece of turkey because they haven't eaten in 2 days. A man in a wheelchair is unfazed by the food and calls the others animals. In contrast, when she first arrived, the maid was startled to see a tire inside the room. She complained and threw the tire outside the room without realizing it was alive. Furious with the maid's behavior toward him, he killed her by busting its head to pieces, leaving a young boy as a witness. When he tried to discuss what he had witnessed back in the motel, his father raged at him and called him odd.
Cut this bullshit out?
Later in the day, the previous woman chooses to swim in the pool and Rubber chooses to follow her but quickly becomes icy when several police officers, including Sheriff Chad, arrive on the scene to look into the murderous streak of killings. The audience was now completely focused on the movie, but as they watched through their binoculars, another kid began to complain of severe stomach pain. Before long, everyone was complaining of severe stomach discomfort and they all died.
It was a trap.
A trap?
When Sheriff Chad arrived at the pool area, the kid tried to assist by telling the police what he witnessed, but his father, who also owned the motel, urged him to leave.
I'm not joking. Okay, we will settle this tonight. Now scram.
In the meantime, Sheriff Chad began his investigation, asking the hotel owner about the day's events. Sheriff Chad was stopped by a loud alarm while the tire was still inside the motel. The alert signals that the audience members who had consumed it after 2 days of hunger started to die, because the turkey was loaded with poison. When he emerged, he urged one of his friends to shoot him to support his claim that the incident was a hoax, but other police officers think he had gone insane, while the other cops went to work and resumed their investigation. In an attempt to maintain order and preserve lives, Sheriff Chad declares that the movie is ended and the characters should go home after their audience died. However, the accountant steps in and informs Sheriff Chad that a man in the wheelchair had not eaten the poisoned turkey. Feeling ashamed, he makes the decision to leave and head back to the hotel to finish his research and speak with the motel's owner. As soon as he begins speaking with the hotel owner, the tire bursts his head into pieces and kills him from behind. The only witness was Sheriff Chad. He initially didn't think his eyes were real because a Slayer tire isn't something you see every day, but he quickly returns to work, alerting other officers and requests backup.
I'll give you an hour to find them.
In front of the mirror, Rubber looks at himself with curiosity before approaching the young kid who thinks he was responsible for the eliminates. After reacting to the kid, he leaves him alone, unharmed. However, the officers initially look at Sheriff Chad as though he were insane, but they had to stick to their jobs. After the young kid went to Sheriff Chad and told him where Rubber was, the police soon go on a tire hunt and halt the eliminations, saving lives. Meanwhile, the man in the wheelchair was still alive because he had not eaten the turkey. Later that evening, when a police car observed Rubber rolling down the street, Rubber turned to face it, smashed its driver out of it, and blasted its head at pieces. The police officer sitting next to the driver was visibly shocked, and the man in a wheelchair saw the entire event through binoculars, while chatting with the accountant. The accountant tries to poison and kill the member, but he ends up dying from starvation and consumes the poisoned food. At night, after taking down the police officer, Rubber the tire returned to his job in the hopes of finding more targets for his skills. Soon after, he discovers a group of people burning a pile of tires. Dissatisfied with what he witnessed, he waits for the ideal moment to attack, and when he feels it is time, he joyfully launches an extermination rampage, destroying everyone in the area. Over the course of 3 days, all of his victims were destroyed by blowing their skulls to pieces, whether they were in the phone booth, the store, or the actual road. The situation was now out of control, and Sheriff Chad was furious. The police were helpless to stop it, they could only watch the events unfold. When a police officer noticed a loud TV playing inside a house, he looked through the window, noticed the tire in front of the TV, and quickly called for assistance. In order to stop the elimination spree, Rubber had to be captured, which required careful preparation. After some time of thinking, Sheriff Chad was supposed to entice Rubber to approach a woman, who is actually a mannequin with dynamite on it. The woman looked like Rubber's follow from the car in the motel. Also, he chooses to entice Rubber to the mannequin by using her voice. Rubber runs over to the mannequin and blows up her head without realizing it. Sheriff Chad was pleased with his strategy for catching Rubber and believed that the explosives inside the mannequin would explode at any moment. However, he was let down when the dynamite did not explode.
Again.
After the man in a wheelchair made fun of Sheriff Chad for his alleged scheme, he was embarrassed but furious. He began shooting at the tire with his shotgun. Unaware that Sheriff Chad and his shotgun had quickly destroyed Rubber, the man in the wheelchair continued to make fun of Sheriff Chad and his poor attempt. The man in a wheelchair was laughing as the car bass fell on him due to the impact of the destroyed tire. When he saw a tricycle leave the house where Sheriff Chad had used his gun to eliminate Rubber, the man in a wheelchair was a little alarmed, but he was unable to stop it. Rubber was not dead. Rather, he was reborn as a tricycle. Enraged by the events, he destroys the man in the wheelchair, destroying its body entirely. After removing him and Rubber begins to leave the area, Sheriff Chad leaves the woman on the road where she parked her car and drives off. The woman also got into her car and was ready to leave when she noticed a tricycle ride go by behind her. It moves from one location to another by going past cars. Throughout the journey, Rubber uses the tires that fell and were abandoned by people to rise again and follow it along the route. Rubber leads the way as he gradually gathers an army of tires that march through cars on their route to Hollywood. When the opening credits roll again, the opening scene is shown from another point of view. This time, it shows that Chad is not talking to anyone at the beginning of the film, while the accountant is staring at him with a strange, bewildered, and bored expression, giving the film a mysterious ending.
Absolutely no reason.
Thanks for watching, and remember to turn on your notifications to watch more movie recaps like this one.